Hello and welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee and today we are going to do some scratch cooking. I'm really excited to bring you this video. If you've been following me for any length of time, this format is going to be different from what you're used to. I've mentioned it a couple of times that I wanted to transition out of kitchen videos where I'm talking directly to the camera because they are frankly exhausting. This voiceover version where I can just live my life while I'm in the kitchen is a lot easier on me and my mental health. And so that's what I'm going to start doing. In fact, here, if you see me talking, I'm on the phone with my mom. And I would have had to stop what I'm doing, turn the camera off, take the phone call, probably go sit down on the couch and talk to her. We were on the phone for an hour and 20 minutes on this day. And so I love being able to just continue on with my task while talking to my mom or watching something on my kitchen TV, what have you. So it's been almost 3 years now of me making videos for this channel, and we're gonna start switching it up to make things a little easier on myself. So anyway, what you see me doing here this morning is actually, I made this cookie dough for a party, but I ran out of time before the party and didn't have a chance to bake these up. So now I just have this cookie dough. This is brown butter sourdough chocolate chip cookie dough. And I originally made this, I was going to sell these because I was going to do an in-home bakery, like a sort of like a micro bakery, but I'm not doing that anymore, at least not right now. But everybody loves these cookies, so I like having a bag of them in the freezer on hand. So here I am weighing them because I like them to all be the same size, and I make them 77 grams. Each cookie is 77 grams. That's my lucky number, 7. And so I go through and measure each individual cookie out to be 77 grams, and that way when I bake them up, they bake evenly. It's quite a large cookie, and they're just so good, and I love having some on hand. So it was a happy accident that I wasn't able to bring these to that party, because now I just have a plastic bag full of them in my freezer to bake up whenever we might want them. We're gonna move on to the first recipe of the day here, but first, this recipe calls for milk. I get my milk from a local organic grass-fed dairy, and they have been sold out of butter recently. It's a hot commodity item, they said. So I've been taking the cream off the milk and making my own butter. I really love the farm butter, and yes, I can buy organic butter from the store, and I do. It's often what I bake with. You'll see a little bit of it today. But for putting on toast or anything where you're really gonna taste the butter, I like to have really good quality butter. So this is what I've been doing. And yes, it makes the milk a little less full fat, but to me, it's okay. I'm happy with that. That's fine. In fact, I've been drinking less milk because I'm trying to lose some weight. So having the cream not in the milk has been fine. It's been good for me. So the recipe that we're making, this first one today, is actually an enriched bread, not a sourdough bread. It's a yeasted bread. My sourdough starter is in the fridge. We are taking a break from each other. So this is a yeasted bread recipe, and it is an enriched recipe, which means it has milk, butter, eggs. It's not just yeast, flour, water, salt like bread often is. This is an enriched dough. And so we've got the butter and the milk warming up on the stove, and I'm going to add my yeast. This is just active dry yeast that I buy from Azure Standard. I keep it in that baggie in the freezer. It keeps really well that way. I'm adding that to my large bowl, but you're going to see that I end up not using that bowl. I change my mind and I get my KitchenAid stand mixer out because this bread has to knead for quite some time. I'm pretty sure the recipe said 5 to 7 minutes, and it ends up being about that. And so I just don't even want to. I could hand knead it, but I don't really want to. So I get my KitchenAid mixer out instead and use that to make this bread. What you don't see here, but is important to this video, is that this mixture, this milk mixture, was very warm. So in between me getting out the mixer and me pouring the yeast in, as you see here, I went and sat down on the couch and doom scrolled social media for too long. And this ends up not being warm enough, as you'll see in a moment. Now, I'm on a lot of different supplements because of my functional medicine doctor. We did a bunch of testing and she's got me on a bunch of supplements, and this is one of them. I think you probably can catch the name of the product in this video, but I don't recommend anybody just blindly go out and start using it. I did a lot of blood work. I did a Dutch test. It was recommended to me that I take this product. And I'm just showing you because, well, it's YouTube and that's what people do. But don't just go take it without somebody telling you that you should take it. So as you can see here, that yeast has been sitting for a while and no activity. I have a trick for that. Take a bowl of pretty warm water, hot water even, and set your bowl with your yeast down inside of it, and it will warm the liquid back up again and will help the yeast activate. I've had to do this in the past. If that happens and I get distracted and the yeast, the liquid goes cold, this is a great solution to get that yeast to activate. And as you can see here, it did the trick. This is what you're looking for, nice foamy yeast. And so that's a nifty little trick that I use if that happens. This is how I store my flour. I've got these 5-gallon buckets with the Gamma lids. It has a picture of Azure standard flour on the front, but that's actually not what this is. This is farmer ground flour that I get from a local health food store here in my town. And I love this flour. Oh my gosh, this flour has been great. It is an all-purpose flour. They do sift out the bran and the germ and leave just the endosperm, but it is fresh-ish ground. It has the date on the bag of when it was milled. And so, yeah, it still probably has lost a lot, pretty much all of its nutritional value, but it's not enriched, it's not bleached, and it doesn't have any of the crap that store-bought flour has. You can see here this dough is way too sticky still, way too sticky. And so I added more flour, but I turned the mixer up too high on mistake and made a huge mess. That is my life. I'm very messy in the kitchen, but it's okay. The flour that I added did the trick, as you'll see in a moment. And I ended up with dough that was exactly what I was looking for. And you want it to pull away from the sides of the bowl. If it's still sticking badly to the sides and the bottom and the hook like you saw a moment ago, it's not ready. You want it to pull away and be a ball, like clinging to the dough hook. Now I'm just testing it out. I'm just seeing how I feel about it because I could always do a little hand kneading with some flour if I felt that it was still too sticky. So I'm just doing a quick, knead with my hands just to see, is this very sticky? Is it sticking to my hands? Does it need more flour? Is it going to be too dry? And it wasn't sticking to me too badly, but it was still sticky-ish. And so to me, that's perfect. It could have stood to be a little bit stickier, but it's not that big of a deal. So it goes into an oil, a bowl with some oil with cling wrap, and it's going to sit and do its first rise. And I've got some cleaning to do because I made a huge mess when I accidentally turned the mixer on too high. Oops. We're moving on to the next recipe, and that is chicken salad. I have never liked chicken salad ever my whole life. I never eat it when it's available to me because I don't like chunky stuff. I just don't. I don't like chunky chicken salad, and so I've never liked it, but I'm trying to get more protein. I've been exercising a lot more, and I want to increase the protein in my diet, and this is an excellent recipe for that. So I did some searching online and found a recipe where somebody actually pureed their chicken salad, and it looked more like tuna salad. And I can really get behind that. So here I'm adding the chicken to my little blender cup. I'm also going to add a hard-boiled egg. This is a farm fresh from my backyard hard-boiled egg and some homemade mayonnaise. The mayonnaise looks that color because I use avocado oil, which is green. So paired with the egg, it turns it kind of this like weird yellowy color. And it's okay. It's not store-bought mayonnaise. That's a flavor that's hard to replicate, but it does the trick. And I'm also adding just some chopped up onion and some garlic. I would have liked to add some pickle relish. I didn't have any. That's something that I'd like to can this year to keep on the shelves. Now I'm going to try and puree this, but as you'll see, it does not work. It needs a little bit of liquid. It's way too dry. It wasn't working. So all I did was add a little splash of filtered water, just water, and just a little bit, maybe a tablespoon. And boy, did that do the trick. When I put it back on and went to pulse again, it was beautiful, perfect. It pureed right up. So I'm a little skeptical about this at the time because I've never liked chicken salad, and this was like I pureed it a lot. I probably won't puree it that much in the future. It's like baby food, but it was delicious. It was so good. The garlic especially really stood out to me, and it was just delicious. I think with the pickle relish, I would really, really like that. But this chicken salad was a win for me. So now we're just going to revisit the bread. And I have a glass Pyrex bread pan there. I always use coconut oil in my bread pans, and for some reason I could not get that coconut oil open. I don't know what was up with it. I couldn't get it open, so I used my chosen avocado spray, and this is going to be a real issue for us in the future. You'll see, we'll come back to that. I've never folded my bread like this before. This is what the recipe that I used told me to do. So I am just going to fold in the corners and then fold it down sort of like I don't know, would you call that kind of like an envelope, I guess? And I've never seen that done before, but it's what the recipe said to do, so we're giving it a try. And it was fine. It was okay. I've been on the hunt for a really good enriched bread recipe, and I know they're out there. Especially, I was at a friend's house, and she served some, I think it was like chili, and she had this like challah bread that she made, and it was an enriched recipe, and it was so soft and fluffy and so good. And I'm on the hunt. You'll see later in the video, this did not hit all of the requirements that I was looking for. So I probably won't make this recipe again. It was still fine, but I'm still on the hunt for a really good enriched bread recipe. So I actually had to leave for a little while. Benny had a grooming appointment, so I had to drop him off. So we're back in the kitchen now, and we are going to continue on with where we left off. The bread has been rising this entire time, and look at that. It rose really nicely. So we're going to go ahead and prepare an egg wash. Putting an egg wash on your bread helps it brown up really nicely and have that brown crust that you're used to from the grocery store bread. But before we do that, there's actually something else that I want to get going, and that's breadcrumbs. So here in this bag, I have just some sourdough bread end pieces, and I'm going to break those up and put them in my little blender cup, a different one from earlier. This is the way I like to do breadcrumbs. Everybody has their own like opinions and thoughts on this. I like to blend them up before I put them in the oven, and you're going to see a comparison here shortly in this video, and I'll show you exactly why that is. But I like to blend mine before I put them in the oven. All I wanted to do was just unload the dishwasher. These breadcrumbs were probably only in the oven for like literally 3 minutes. And the oven wasn't up super high. It was at either 350 or 375, I can't remember. And they were in there for such a short amount of time, and they burnt. I could smell them. That's how I knew. I was like, what's burning? It's been 3 minutes. So those are ruined. I had to throw those out. I actually gave them to the chickens. So I had a couple end pieces left, thank goodness. So I'm doing the opposite. This time I just chunked the bread and put it in the oven just like that, and then put those baked chunks into the blender. And this is why I don't prefer to do it that way. Look at how big those pieces are. It just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't break up as easy after you've baked it than before. Something that you didn't see, while that bread was in the oven, a chicken got out, and I had to go outside and chase it around. So the bread was in the oven after the timer went off for a few minutes, and it did get a little brown, which I do think affected the quality of this bread. But at the time of me doing this voiceover, we've almost eaten it all. So, it wasn't a total loss. Now you can see why I was bummed to have to use the avocado spray versus the coconut oil. This never happens to me when I use coconut oil. It always pops right out. Literally, I just turn it upside down and it falls out beautifully. I never, ever, ever have to fight to get my bread out of my bread pans when I use the coconut oil. But the avocado spray wasn't doing it. And so I was really sad not to have access to my coconut oil. Tom did end up helping me get that lid off. I don't know what was going on with that, but I was definitely bummed. So anyway, I put all this in here to say, if you have coconut oil, use that to line the inside of your baking pans and things just fall right out. It's beautiful. Now we're going to move on to the last recipe in this video, dinner, and we're making hamburger steaks with a creamy dill sauce. I have been feeling so uninspired when it comes to dinner. I'm so tired of making the same things over and over again. Don't get me wrong, my scratch cooking skills have come a long way, and I can make several recipes very well, but I'm getting tired of them. Here, I just want to pause to say, look at this egg. Oh my gosh, it has a little bit of blood on it and that weird circle where it looks like they really had to push it out. Huge egg, that poor girl. Anyway, so I've been on Pinterest and I've been on people's blogs and Instagram, and I'm just really trying to feel inspired. I want to push my skill level. I want to push my recipe repertoire. I want to put new, fun, exciting recipes on the dinner table for my family, for myself. I want new flavors. I don't know, I just want to expand in the kitchen. And so this is, like I said, hamburger steaks with a creamy dill sauce. I love dill. I have dill. I just don't use it very often. This summertime hair is crazy. All right, I'm ready for some lunch, and that bread is cool now. I've let it sit, not as long as I probably should have. I never let it sit as long as I should. But I'm hungry. I want some lunch. I want some of this chicken salad, and I want to put some fresh homegrown lettuce on this. So we're going to run out to the garden really quick and pick some lettuce, but it is raining. It's just starting to rain. It's sprinkling. A nasty, dreary day today. I've actually kind of liked it though, if I'm being honest with you. All right, let's pick some lettuce here. I always wash my lettuce. I have to. I have so many slugs in the garden, and I've seen them on my lettuce. And also just like dirt splashes back on it and stuff. So even though it's homegrown and there's no pesticides on it, I still always wash, especially the lettuce that comes out of the garden. All right, now we're gonna come back to this bread and we're gonna talk about this for a second, because like I said, I've been on the hunt for a good enriched bread recipe, and this wasn't it. Now, granted, I did over bake it a few minutes, and I do think that contributed to what I'm about to say. But this recipe, this bread was so dense and so dry. It was so crumbly. It was not that soft, fluffy, stretchy bread that I have seen and know is out there. It was very crumbly. Later in the video, I toast a piece and put butter on it for dinner. And as I was trying to butter it, it was just crumbling away under my knife. And yes, I know that me over baking it contributed to that a little bit, but come on, it's not supposed to just literally disintegrate as you run a knife over the top of it to put butter on it. It just fell apart. So in that container there with the blue lid, that is homemade cottage cheese. So this is a protein packed lunch. The chicken in the chicken salad, the hard boiled egg that we included in there, and that homemade cottage cheese. A very, very healthy homemade lunch. Literally everything about this is homemade. That was a farm fresh chicken that I roasted and then picked apart. That was mayonnaise that I made, cottage cheese that I made, lettuce that I grew, bread that I made. This is a homemade farm protein packed lunch, and it was absolutely delicious. The cottage cheese, I make that every other week. This is the prenatal that my functional medicine doctor has me on. I'm not sponsored by them, but I would love to be, because this prenatal is where it's at. Such a good prenatal vitamin. I always have to take capsules with soda because of the carbonation. I'm terrible at taking pills. I wish I was better at it. This chicken salad sandwich just hit it out of the park. And since this day, I've actually had it for lunch every single day. I'm obsessed with it. It is so good. I've never liked chicken salad before, and I'm so happy to have another lunch recipe in the repertoire, because I struggle with lunch. I struggle coming up with lunch ideas. So I'm happy to have another one added in to the mix. So now we're going to come back to dinner, and we are going to go ahead and make these hamburger steaks, which of course I'm going to do in my cast iron skillet. And they turned out really, really nice. I mean, they're called hamburger steaks, but honestly, they're just hamburgers. The only difference is, I guess, these had diced up onion in it, which I would not normally put in a burger. I guess I could, though, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Otherwise, these are basically burgers, but they're called hamburger steaks in the recipe. And they were really good. I really liked them. I cooked them on the skillet to be kind of medium rare with a little bit of pink in the middle. That's how I really prefer my burgers, my steaks, any kind of beef that I'm cooking. I like for it to be a little pink in the middle. So that's how I cooked these to be as well. And they turned out great. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to making our creamy dill sauce. So we're going to add butter, and then we're also going to add, that's the rest of that onion that you saw earlier, as well as a clove of minced garlic. And to that, after we've had let that cook for a second, we're going to add flour. So we're making a roux here. And this is my favorite way of making a thick sauce. I know you can also do like a cornstarch flurry, and I've done that before, but I love making roux. I'm used to it. I'm good at it. It's what I like to do. So I continue to add flour until my butter is no longer wet and shiny. See in the corners there how it is still it's very wet looking, very shiny. I want this to be dry and crumbly, and so I'm going to continue adding flour until I reach that dry, crumbly consistency that I'm looking for. And that's going to offer us the best chance at getting a really thick sauce. And this does end up being a very thick sauce, because look at all that flour that we added. These are chicken broth ice cubes. I made a batch of chicken broth and didn't feel like canning it, so I thought, what a good idea. I'm going to put these in an ice cube tray and make ice cubes, because I don't always need a full jar of broth. In this case, I didn't. I just needed, I don't remember what the recipe called for, but it was less than a cup. And so I just added a few of these ice cubes. The only problem that I ran into was that they didn't melt fast enough for me to start loosening up that roux. And you don't want to let that sit on the heat for too long without adding liquid to thin it out. Because think about it, it's butter and flour that will start to cook, actually cook. And so you don't want that necessarily, because then it won't thin out. You want to be able to take that roux and turn it into a sauce. So I just let those chicken broth cubes hang out in there, and I start adding milk, which we were always going to do. That was always the plan, to add milk. Normally I would have worked the chicken broth in first and then added the milk. But in this case, they just happened at the same time, and that's fine. It ended up being just fine, no problem. You can see how this is already starting to thin out and turn into a nice thick sauce, and I just continue adding milk. I never use a recipe for this. There is a recipe. I just looked to see what the ingredients were. Obviously, dill. We're going to go ahead and add our dill now. Outside of the ingredients though, like it could have told me this much butter, this much flour, this much chicken broth, this much milk. I ignore that. I know how to make a sauce and I know what we like in a sauce, so I go with that. And even so, I ended up doubling this. The amounts that I put in, I made double the amount of sauce because we're a sauce family. We really like our dinners to be really saucy. We're a condiment family. And so I ended up with more sauce than the recipe intended, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. And then at the end, I pour the drippings from the burgers over top because that's all flavor, baby. I want that. That is delicious flavor. And it was too. It tasted really good. Isn't that beautiful? I don't think I took any pictures either, now that I think about it. There's that bread with the butter on it that I mentioned earlier. Oh, yeah. Again, another home, really from scratch homemade dinner. I mean, truly, we made the bread, we made the sauce, we made the burgers. The meat came from the local farm, same farm that the milk and the butter came from. And the dill came from a local place as well. It's just really from scratch. So, so good. So we're gonna take a little bite here. Spoiler alert, it's delicious. I made enough for us to eat this 2 nights. It hit the spot both times. Definitely a recipe that we're adding to our regular repertoire of recipes. That's actually Tom's plate that I just took a bite off of. And I always do that. So I'm just gonna cover it up with a little bit of sauce and you'll never know. Total secret. But even if it wasn't a secret, I call them love bites. I take love bites of his food all the time. And guess what? I can do that because I made it. But no, he doesn't mind. It's a cute little joke that we have. So that was it, guys. I hope that you'll give these recipes a try. I'll have all of the actual recipes linked in the description of this video. So go check them out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Can't wait to see you in my next one. Have faith and keep moving forward. Bye.